All right, Alicia.
That's me.
Alicia, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Midland, Texas.
And tell me about your family.
I am the only girl. I got an older brother and a younger brother. My oldest brother is in Arizona, and my youngest brother is there in Midland. My mom is in Midland, and my real dad has passed away.
Tell me about your childhood.
My childhood, um, we weren't very privileged, I would say. I believe my mom tried her the best she could to raise us, but we were in a sticky situation, should I say. So, growing up as a little girl, my mom was married to this man that became, I guess, my stepdad, you could say. And started back when I was a little girl, like as early as I can remember, probably from 5 to 6 years old. I was, he was touching me in places, of course, that a grown man should not touch a child. And me being the age that I was, I did not know that it was wrong. But I knew it was uncomfortable, but I didn't know it was wrong. So, yeah, that went on for a little bit. It got to the point to where it went on for years. And it got to a point to where I was like tired of him messing with me. So, I would do whatever I could to try my best to avoid the situation. And so whenever I would go to sleep, I would I would start tucking the covers underneath me, my body completely. So therefore, if someone was moving the blankets, I could feel it, and it would wake me up to know that somebody was trying to mess with me. If I wake up in the middle of the night to have to use a bathroom, instead of going to the toilet, I would just pee on the floor. Sorry. So, yeah, he was pretty abusive to my mom. Thank you. He was pretty abusive to my mom. Um, we used to be Catholic, and well, my mom had us going to the Catholic church because of him. So whenever we would go to church, they taught us if you do the sign of the cross and pray, everything will be okay. So that's what I used to do whenever they would fight. I could hear him beating her up, and I could hear her screaming a lot. And I would always be in my room, and I would just always do the sign of the cross and pray, like, Lord, let everything be okay. I was always more worried about my mom than I was worried about me. Sorry. And I didn't even want to start this interview like this. I've been mentally trying to prepare myself for this interview for a while.
You're doing fine.
Thank you. Okay. So, anyways, yeah. So, I think because of the abuse that, how he abused her, he had a lot of mind control over her. They drank a lot, and there was drugs involved. I didn't know that, of course, as far as the drugs were when I was younger, but I did see them drinking, and I knew the only time that he was happy was when he was drinking. But I also knew later on in the night, the happiness is going to go away, and he's either going to mess with me or he's going to fight on my mom. So that was just the reality of my childhood. I used to go to school in elementary and tell people that I was adopted. In the back of my mind, I'm like, who would let these people adopt somebody? But whatever. It wasn't always bad. Yeah, it wasn't always bad though. My brothers had to fight with him sometimes too. It wasn't as crucial, but they knew also too whenever there was a fight to just stay out the way, to not interfere in anything. So yeah, I kept quiet about everything that was going on with me. Like I said, I kind of felt like it wasn't right and I was uncomfortable, but I was also scared. Scared of getting hurt or scared of my mom getting beat up. I was just scared, so I stayed silent. And so basically that's how I grew up, was just to stay silent. And whatever went on in the house stayed in the house. I would say, I can't remember exactly how old I was, but when I was in the 7th grade, we were staying with my stepdad's mom and grandma. At that point in time, I was just like, I think I need to, not, I was in the 7th grade. I think I was in the 6th grade. I was like, I think I'm going to tell my brother, like, what's been going on with me. And so I told him, and we ended up telling my stepdad's aunt, and she ended up calling the cops on him. And so he went to jail. We were still staying with his mom and his grandma. Yeah, he went to jail, and there was just a bunch of different stuff going on. They had like the crisis intervention people interviewing me and asking me what happened while in the sessions where he would mess with me. I was never penetrated by any means, but I was just touched as a little girl. And so all that went on. He goes to jail and he gets out. And at first my mom allowed me to stay with one of my aunts who I always considered a mom to me. So I was allowed to stay with her and my cousins. And then a little bit down the line, she was like, okay, it's time for you to come home. So I had to go back home to her and my stepdad and my brothers. By the time I was in 7th grade, people realized I had told a few people what had happened to me, and not really thinking about the severity of the situation. I told people what happened, and I didn't really have no friends. My mom did try to have a birthday party for me one time, and nobody showed up because everybody already knew who I was living with, and I was so hurt at that time. But I didn't realize people weren't letting their kids come. It wasn't me. It was the situation. But anyways, okay, so then, not too long after that, I don't remember where my stepdad had went to, but my mom was at work. No, I think he might have been in the house asleep. And my mom was at work, and I went to the bathroom and opened the bathroom door, and I found the can, and it was like bent and burnt. And so I believe that's how they like would smoke whatever drug they were smoking and stuff. And so that scared me because I remember when all that stuff was, when I would see that before, that's whenever I would be messed with. So I just walked out the house and I walked to like a near elementary school. This was during the summer, but there was people there. I walked to an elementary school and he didn't know that I had saw and he didn't know I had left. And anyways, they ended up sending the cops over there, and they picked him up again for, I guess, the paraphernalia or whatever was in the house. And of course, he ended up getting out again and back in the house with us. So we went to court for all of this. I would say I was 14 probably when we went to court for it. And my mom was there every day with him and stuff. So I never really knew how my mom felt about me telling on my stepdad. I just knew she was supporting him still. So we went to court. And he was found guilty. He was found guilty, but he just got 5 years. I think there was I don't know if there was some kind of agreement or whatever, but he was given 5 years in prison. Okay, so then we fast forward. He's in prison. Actually, right after he went to prison, my mom sent me with my dad, who I hadn't seen since I was probably like 2. And at this point in time, my dad, he lived in Omaha, Nebraska. And so I went there. I was actually really happy, honestly, to leave, to get away. So I thought anyways. So I'm taking this Greyhound bus. We're going from Texas. It went to, I believe, Kansas and Missouri. And I'm just like 14 or 15-year-old girl taking this trip alone, you know. And but I'm not even really thinking too much about it, just happy to get away from Texas. So then I make it to Omaha and I meet my dad that, like I said, I hadn't seen since I was a toddler. So this man is like foreign to me. So all of a sudden, now that I see this man, I'm like scared. I'm like nervous because I don't know him. So one night I ended up going to sleep. And I wake up, fell asleep on the couch and I woke up and he was literally sitting in a chair right next to me, staring at me. And he could have been doing it because he couldn't believe that his daughter was there. But I thought it was weird because of the situation that I just came out of. So all of a sudden, I no longer trust men, like at all. So I was crying and I just told him I wanted to go back home. And so he sent me back home. So I went back home and went back home to my mom and my brothers and my grandma, which is his mom and his grandma. After he goes to prison, I ended up getting pregnant with my first child at the age of 16 years old to the man that I eventually ended up marrying. We ended up having 4 kids together. We ended up getting an apartment. It got to a point where every time that I was pregnant, somebody else was pregnant. So I didn't have too much guidance as far as, or self-love, like what a woman should do or accept or not accept growing up. So whatever, I was settling for a bunch of BS. My ex-husband at one point had ended up stealing rent money from me. I was the only one working every time that I was pregnant and only one working. So I was taking care of everything, pregnant or not. And so anyways, this guy ends up stealing the rent money from me one day to take somebody to a prom, and I ended up having to live with my kids in a battered women's shelter. He threatened me that if I ever went to my mom's house, he would get the kids taken away from me because of the situation that I dealt with when I was a kid. So, anyways, a longer story short, I ended up having to move in with my mom, with my kids, and he in turn turned around. Well, my stepdad ended up getting out of prison by this point, and she ended up taking my stepdad back, and I ended up losing my kids. He ended up taking them from me. Once that happened, I tried to commit suicide because I was without my kids and I felt like I was just without everything. So after that, it was just hard for me to get my kids back. But I've always been a big part of my kids' life. So I have 4 boys, by the way.
So you lost your kids for what reason exactly?
For what reason? He got them because my stepdad had got out of prison and I was staying with my mom and she took him back in the house. So I had my kids around.
A sex offender.
Yes. And so yeah, that was the biggest thing. And I felt like it was kind of a way to control the situation as well. Yes, my kids should not have been, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. Like, I literally got kicked out of everywhere because of the relationship I was in with him. Every battered women's shelter, HUD, everything. Like, because I was letting this guy just be in my life and whatever. So there was a point in time where me and him got back together for a little bit, but it didn't work out and he kept the kids. And he ended up putting me on child support as soon as he got the boys. Like, it didn't matter the fact that I was always the one taking care of him and taking care of my kids. None of that stuff mattered. As soon as he got the kids, he took advantage of that situation. And so I started paying a little over $900 a month to him, and still taking care of my kids as far as still providing for them. So anyways, I can talk about right now what happened recently with my mom, which made me kind of really reach out to you. And this is the hardest part of the whole interview for me. Okay, when I was a little girl and my stepdad was messing with me, I have the memory of my mom being there too, and my mom touching me too. And I've carried that with me like forever. And I never was really close with my mom for that reason, but she was still my mom and I still loved her. And I felt sorry for her because I never understood why she kept this man around, and I never understood why she would hurt me. I never understood any of it. So, very recently, I reached out to her and I told her I wanted to talk to her. And so she came over to my house and we talked. And I told her, like, Mom, I didn't tell on you because I loved you, but I remember what you did. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I said, you would be there with him sometimes when he was touching me. And all of a sudden, I was the devil and I was a liar. And I make all this stuff up in my head. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. And I feel bad for her because I don't understand where her whole mind frame is. She did tell me that her mom, she had problems growing up too with her dad and him touching on them. And the mom my granny always told them to keep everything quiet. So they were taught to never tell. And so to them, this kind of stuff that went on in the household was normal and you don't tell. And so So I ended up asking her in the same conversation, how did you keep this man around? Like, how did you pick him over me? I mean, even whenever he was in prison, she would make me go visit him and everything with her. And she was like, well, when we went to court, they only said that you had however big of a tear on your hymen or whatever. So basically, she was trying to tell me that nothing ever happened to me, not with her, not with him, and that this everything like that's gone on in my life has been a lie. Like, I believed a lie like the whole time. Basically, that's what she was telling me. Like, all of this was a lie. Even though he was convicted and he went to prison and I have all of my memories, apparently she's trying to make it seem as though I was delusional, or I am delusional for making this stuff up. And so, needless to say, I haven't talked to my mom in the past couple of months for this reason.
And how's your adult life been impacted by all of this?
Oh, my adult life has been so hard, like so hard. I didn't realize how bad the molestation affected me until I was about 34. But I think that if I had like a mom that was actually a mom, I would have done things so much more different. Like, I would not have stayed with a man that was taking advantage of me. From the beginning, because of the situation I was in with my ex-husband. I've been having to work in like really hard to be able to pay bills. I don't qualify for any kind of assistance. I have to have a job to make enough money to make sure that I pay him his money, even though, well, I'll get to that later. But anyways, as far as the molestation goes, I didn't realize how much it affected me until I was about 34. I was in a situation, oh, I don't really know how to put this, but anyways, I was able to see two people interact with each other sexually. And when I saw them interact with each other, I could see like passion, like a connection. And so I realized when I saw that I've never had that ever in my life, because once he touched me when I was a kid, I had a feeling. And that feeling is the feeling that I felt that I was supposed to feel growing up as a woman. So whenever anything sexually happened, I didn't think to reach for a feeling more than this, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I didn't know sexually, I didn't know that whenever you are having sex, there could be something beautiful behind it. I didn't know that until I was watching two other people be intimate with each other. And it was beautiful. And I realized I hadn't been in a situation to where it was ever beautiful. It was just to do it. Also, just watching other females and seeing them like go to lunch with their mom, or just doing mom and daughter things. Like, I don't know what that is. Like, I really honestly don't know what that feeling is. And I wish that I did. I just feel like that I don't. I didn't know what it was to have a mom or dad, honestly. So it affected the way I raised my boys as well. I make sure that I keep my boys close every day. I make sure I have a conversation with them each and every day. I make sure to tell them I'm sorry every day. for the times that I was still learning. Right now, my boys are older, so they completely I wouldn't say completely understand, but they do understand that they have a mom that loves them dearly and would do anything for them. And to me, that's all that matters, because I don't want my kids to grow up and be in their 30s and wonder why their mom didn't love them. I would never do that to my kids. Literally on my social medias, it's really all I ever post is my kids. I don't really post nothing else. My kids, like my oldest son is 21, and I post him like he's a 1-year-old still. Like, I'm proud of every little step that he takes. Like, just that's how I am with all of them. And I'm sure people are like, why does she post her boys so much? But if they only knew why I posted my boys so much. And I really was not intending on crying this much during this interview, so I apologize.
Have you seen a therapist? Anything like that?
I have not seen a therapist. I did back in the day when I tried to commit suicide one time, and I was diagnosed with PTSD. And I was given some medication for it, but I had stopped that. But that was a long time ago. Today is just, I don't know. I guess speaking about it is really hard. I have actually been really good. And like, even when I had the conversation with my mom, even though it was a tough one, it made me feel better. It made me feel like a lot of weight was lifted off my shoulders. To actually let her know and finally get that off of my chest. It made me feel a lot better. And even though we're not talking now, I do want my mom to know I love her. I want the best for her, of course. But I just need my time. I just definitely need my time.
Alicia, what would you say is the most important thing you've learned out of all of this?
I would say, I think the greatest lesson I've taken from it is to be the best mom that I can be.
That's a great one. All right, Alicia, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.